Jackie, thanks for joining. I don't think she can hear. There you go. Like she's on YouTube Live.
Did Jackie confirm that she can hear us?
Hey, Jackie, can you hear?
Yep, I can hear you. I forgot my headphones, so I'm standing in a corner.
All right, so we'll get going here. So this we'll call the city council business meeting to order. It's Thursday, June 17th, 2021 at 6:01 p.m. Lindsay, would you call the roll?
Councilmember Lester,
Here.
Baker,
Here.
Reba,
Here.
Cool, Livingston,
Here.
Mayor Tom Phillips.
I am here as well. So we do have quorum. We'll go on. So for those on the Zoom meeting, you'll notice that your microphones are muted. If you want to speak to an agenda item, go ahead and unmute your mic and speak up during public comment. You can also let us know you have some input by raising your Zoom hand or by flagging us in the chat box. We'll then recognize you during the public comment. Also, don't forget to mute your microphone after you've made your comments. You'll also notice that you needed to be allowed into the Zoom meeting tonight. If you are disruptive, we'll give you a warning and ask you to stop. If you are still disruptive, we'll remove you from this Zoom meeting and you will not be allowed back in. This is what would happen with a full in-person meeting. So this really isn't a change to our procedures. We are streaming this meeting through YouTube. We believe YouTube provides the ability for a much broader audience to view our meetings. There is a time delay on the YouTube meetings, so we will not respond to questions that may be texted to people in council chambers. If you'd like to ask questions during the meeting, please either attend in person or attend via the Zoom meeting. And just as a reminder, we are recording this meeting. So with that all said, item 2 is a Pledge of Allegiance. Would you please rise and say the Pledge of Allegiance with me?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. Thank you. Item 3 on the agenda is we're going to move is the approval of the agenda. We're going to move items 6G, 6H, and 6I to come right after this item. Would anybody like to move any of the consent agenda items to the regular agenda? Hearing none, can I get a motion to approve the agenda as amended?
Motion. Second.
Okay, I got a motion. Reba, second by Livingston. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same. Is the second and possible third reading of an ordinance amending chapter 154 existing 155 building code of the city of Norwalk to delay implementation of storm shelter requirements. So at our last meeting, we passed the first reading of this change, which delays implementation of the storm shelter requirements so the school can get their project started. Any discussion or comments from council? Or any public comment? All right, hearing none.
A motion?
Can I get a motion to approve the second reading of this ordinance? So motion by Baker, second by Lester. Any further discussion? Lindsay, would you call the roll?
Councilmember Lester,
Yes.
Baker,
Yes.
Reba,
Yes.
Livingston.
Yes.
Would anybody like to waive the third reading? Motion by Reba, second by Lester. No, any further comment? All right.
Call roll for that. Yeah.
Yes. So Lindsay, would you call roll?
Councilmember Livingston,
Yes.
Yes.
Baker,
Yes.
Reba.
Yes.
Okay, motion carries. Item 6H is a third reading of an ordinance amending the zoning ordinance of the city of Norwalk, Iowa to regulate solar energy systems. So this is the third reading to amend the ordinance to regulate. Tony, you got anything else to add? No? Okay. Any discussion or comments from council? Any public comment? Hearing none, can I get a motion to approve the second?
Motion.
Third reading of this.
Sorry.
ordinance? You're fine. So got a motion. Second by Reba. Any further discussion? Hearing none. Lindsay, would you call the roll?
Councilmember Reba,
Yes.
Livingston,
Yes.
Lester,
Yes.
Baker.
Yes.
All right. Motion carries. Item 6I is a third reading of an ordinance amending Chapter 91, water meters, Chapter 92, water rates, and Chapter 177, rates and fees, providing for amending water usage charges, amending secondary water meter usage charges, and amending recycling charges. So this is third reading to set our water rates. Wayne, Luke, Jean, anything else to add?
We've had several email responses to what we've sent out. Kaylin in our office has done a great job of responding to those emails, answering questions. Believe it or not, we even had a compliment of saying,
Wow.
kudos to the city for doing the things that need to be done and realizing rates adjustments come along with that.
Cool, good. Anything else? Any discussion from council? Or public comment? Hearing none, can I get a motion to approve? Okay.
Second.
Motion by Reva, second by Baker. Any further discussion? Hearing none. Lindsay, would you call the roll?
Councilmember Lester,
No.
Baker,
Yes.
Reba,
Yes.
Livingston.
Yes.
Okay, motion carries. Jackie, thanks for being here.
Yeah, thanks for adjusting the schedule. Y'all have a good rest of your meeting.
You have a good training.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
Item 4 is welcome guests and public comment. This will be for non-agenda items. We'll give you a 3-minute time limit. We can't take action on these tonight since they aren't on the agenda. Also, if you'd like to comment on any item in the consent agenda, now would be the time. Anybody want to address council? Seeing none, we will move on. Item 5 is consent agenda. We have approved the June 3rd, 2021 minutes of the regular city council meeting, have expenditures, tax abatements, have a special event application, Celebrate Norwalk event, July 3rd, 2021 at City Park, 907 North Avenue from 12 p.m. to 10:30 p.m. Have street closure application, Celebrate Norwalk Parade, July 3rd, 2021 from 9:45 a.m. to 12 p.m. We have a new 5-day Class C liquor license with outdoor service, Hy-Vee wedding event at 7988 Adams Street, Cumming, Iowa, July 8th, 2021 through July 13th, 2021. A long wedding event. We have a resolution approving West North Avenue Rehabilitation Phase 2 Change Order Number 1. A resolution approving amendment to Norwalk Commercial Improvement Incentive Program. We have a resolution to approve a final pay estimate and certificate of completion to Kelly Cordum Incorporated for Highway 28 drainage improvements, Hakes Drive to Wright Road project. We have a resolution authorizing the city clerk to destroy certain records of the city of Norwalk in accordance with the Code of Iowa. A resolution to approve final payment to American Fence Company for Public Works fencing project. We have a resolution to approve final payment to Concrete Professionals for the supplemental agreement to seed, fertilize, and mulch the trail improvements at Highway 28 and Colonial Parkway. We have a resolution to approve the disposal of city property. We have a resolution to approve the purchase of a new Dodge Durango police vehicle. A resolution to approve fire services contract agreement pursuant to Iowa Code Section 28E between Lee Township and the city of Norwalk, Iowa. We have a resolution approving an agreement with the Iowa Department of Transportation for maintenance and repair of primary roads. A resolution approving the 28E supplemental agreement for snow removal on Iowa 28 within the city of Norwalk. We have approval of employment separation agreement. We have a resolution appointing Ryan Sharp to the Library Board of Trustees and monthly reports. Can I get a motion to approve?
Motion.
Second.
Okay, motion by Lester, second by Reva. Lindsay, would you call the roll?
Councilmember Lester,
Yes.
Baker,
Yes.
Reba.
Yes.
All right, motion carries. Sorry about that, Dave. Item 6A. Well, item 6 is old and new business for consideration, discussion, and possible action. Item A is a resolution approving amendment to development agreement with signature companies for the Beardsley Sanitary Sewer Extension Project. So this is a sanitary sewer that runs along Lake Colchester. Looks like the project is moving along, but they need an extension in the development agreement to November 30th of this year. Luke, I'll let you take it from here.
All right. They really just have a few little punch list items to complete. We have extended this once before with some of the difficulties getting grass to grow. and just settlement issues and with the number of property owners are being impacted. Tony Blizzy worked with us and felt like we probably needed to give him just a little bit more time to finish those punch list items. Him and I both felt that it was appropriate to grant the extension.
And this is a new type of project for Signature, and they said that they're probably never going to try this again.
It's accurate, yeah.
So,
Oh, and also it's kind of a side point related. We did get feedback, and as you know, the depth of that sewer, when they finished, it didn't come in as low as they had originally planned. Although the next phase that they did, they took it from being about 1.5 feet too high to only about only being about 6 inches off.
Oh.
So Tony Blizzy, our city engineer, he had indicated that then means it's a very favorable for us being able to serve and eliminate that lift station legacy. So that was some good news.
good.
But that's a side note, has nothing to do with this extension.
Right. So any discussion, questions, or comments from council? Or public comment? Can I get a motion to approve the resolution as presented?
Motion?
Second.
Okay, motion by Baker, second by Riva. Any further discussion? Hearing none. Lindsay, would you call the roll?
Councilmember Baker,
Yes.
Reba,
Yes.
Lester.
Yes.
Okay, item 6B is a resolution to approve the execution of easements and fee title acquisitions for the Highway 28 and North Avenue intersection improvements project. Ooh. So this is for the improvements just down the hill at the intersection. We only have easements and right of way for 2 of the 4 property owners. Is that
We
right?
have everything except for 2 property owners.
Okay,
So we've got them from 5 different parcels.
all right. Oh, out of 5 parcels, we have 2.
No, out of 7.
Out of
I believe
7.
We've gotten 5.
We've
2
gotten
left.
5. Okay, so we don't, okay, gotcha.
One of the 2 are the ones we're going through condemnation on, correct?
And the other one, we can do a workaround.
Do we want to do a workaround or do we want to?
The one we don't have is a temporary grading easement. It would allow us just to slope the transition area back and make it easier to mow, and I've explained that to the property owner. He's just adamant he's not gonna give it. He's frustrated about several things. So we'll just design around it. It's gonna be tougher, more difficult for him to mow. I have made a last ditch effort this week to communicate that, and I haven't heard back yet. We may still get it.
All right. Any questions or discussion, comments from council? Or public comment? I get a motion to approve the resolution as presented?
Motion. Second.
Mhm.
I'm gonna go motion by Lester, second by Reba. Hopefully that doesn't screw what Lindsay just wrote up down. Any further discussion? Lindsay, would you call the roll?
Councilmember Reba,
Yes.
Lester,
Yes.
Baker.
Yes.
Okay, motion carries. Item 6C is resolution adopting the street tree policy. So we've had talks about this before, and we've never really had a written policy on the planting of street trees. Luke Nelson and Wayne, I believe you two have been involved in this process. So I'll let you take it from here.
I was helping Ellie with this. Really, we determined we had inconsistencies when somebody would come forward and request a tree. Sometimes residents would come to Public Works, sometimes they'd go to Community Development. So we decided we should probably align and get a policy put together. We did take this policy to the Public Works, the new Public Works work group, for them to review. And I think we did make maybe some minor edits from there, but our final draft is what's before you tonight. Generally, just kind of being consistent, we're not big fans of street trees unless it was part of a PUD where it was designed and had some forethought put into it. We just don't want them after the fact going in most neighborhoods, so.
I like seeing that there was actually a list of what type of trees are approved. 'Cause, yeah.
Yep, smaller trees.
Okay, any questions or discussion, council? Any public comment? Hearing none, can I get a motion to approve the resolution as presented?
Motion.
Second?
Okay, motion by Rivas, second by Baker. Any further discussion? Hearing none, Lindsay, would you call the roll?
Councilmember Lester,
Yes.
Baker,
Yes.
Reba.
Yes.
All right, motion carries. Item 6D is a resolution approving the addition of part-time hours to the fiscal year 21 budget for the fire department. So due to personnel changes at the department, We have a hole in staffing that Captain Porter would like to fill. Captain Porter, I'll let you take it from here.
So essentially, we're just asking for some part-time hours to fill some vacancies on the floor while we're in a transition period. We're going to be doing a search to fill the chief's position. So this is a temporary position or temporary hours at this time, up to 12 months while we kind of reorganize within the department. During that time, I'll be conducting a staffing study to be able to bring forward a better plan for staffing coming into the fiscal year 2022 year. So any questions regarding it?
This is me just clarifying. So you're doing it with multiple people. So I saw 60
So it's-
hours a week and said to myself, that
It's
creates
just-
an overtime issue. I just want to
No,
make sure. we
it's not a
weren't
full-time
calculating.
position. They're just part-time hours.
Yeah, cool.
All right, any other questions? Discussion with council? Or any public comment? Hearing none, can I get a motion to approve the resolution as presented?
Motion.
Second.
Motion by Lester, seconded by Baker. Any further discussion? Hearing none, Lindsay, would you call a roll?
Councilmember Baker,
Yes.
Riva,
Yes.
Lester.
Yes.
All right, motion carries. Item 6E is the first reading of an ordinance amending Chapter 177 rates and fees of the Norwalk Municipal Code regarding peddlers, solicitors, and transient merchants. So this ordinance change is to correct an error made back in 2013. So Lindsay, I'll let you explain
Sure.
what happened there.
So the police department typically issues the peddler permits. I don't usually get a lot of questions about them. I did have someone reach out to me recently asking what our ordinance was, so I sent it to them. They then took that into Peggy, and the charges were different from what Peggy usually charges for the license versus what ordinance I had given to the person asking. So that brought up question for Peggy and I to figure out which ones were supposed to be right. And with the help of Jim, we dug back into history and found out that there was an ordinance passed in 2013 that updated Chapter 122, and it did not update Chapter 177 rates and fees. So this is correcting that.
All right. Thank you. Any questions for council? Public comment? Hearing none, can I get a motion to approve the first reading of the ordinance?
Motion.
Second.
Okay, motion by Baker, seconded by Riva. Any further discussion? Hearing none, Lindsay, would you call a roll?
Councilmember Riva,
Yes.
Lester,
Yes.
Baker.
Yes.
All right, motion carries. Item 6F is a second reading of an ordinance amending the official zoning map of the city of Norwalk, Iowa by rezoning 8685 Adams Street from AR Agricultural Reserve to RE1 Single Family Real Estate. So last meeting, we approved the first reading of this ordinance change. Tony, anything else to add?
No, sir.
All right, thank you. Any discussion or question from council? Hearing none, can I get a motion to approve the second reading? Yes.
Second.
Okay, got a motion by Baker, second by Riva. Any further discussion? Hearing none, Lindsay, would you call a roll?
Councilmember Lester,
Yes.
Baker,
Yes.
Riva.
Yes.
Okay, motion carries. Item J is a discussion and potential direction regarding enforcement methods for private street nuisances. So we have several private driveways and streets in the city that are in disrepair. City Hall is getting a lot of calls about these, and Facebook has been blowing up about these also. This discussion will hopefully provide some direction for city staff on how to proceed and how they should handle this. So my opinion right now is that if the problem is in the right of way, I think we should give the owners a 30-day notice to get it fixed. And if we pass the 30-day mark, the city should contract with a private contractor to fix the problem and then assess the property owner's cost of fixing it. That would take care of the portion of the right of way. I'm not sure how we should handle the rest of a private driveway failure. On one hand, it's private property for a business. If it gets bad enough, people will stop going to that business, and once it financially hurts that business, it'll get fixed. I think that might be what we're seeing it come and go in McDonald's. On the other hand, we require our residents to keep their lawns mowed and neat, and if they don't, we go out and mow the lawn and assess them for that. We could do the same thing with a private driveway. Give them some notice that it's a nuisance. If the owner hasn't fixed the problem, we could go out to bid, get a private contractor to go ahead and fix it and assess the owner's cost of fixing the property. So I've spouted off about this. Who wants to take this?
Would that be also for HOAs, for private roads that have potholes or something like that? Would
Yeah,
it
I suppose
be the same?
you could assess the HOA the same thing.
Does
I don't know how that would work.
Does the city want to be in charge of all this private contracting for the individuals?
I don't see it coming up. I mean, this is,
Rare.
yeah, it's not a huge deal. We can handle it.
I think the ones that we're looking at, it's, everyone knows there's the ones by McDonald come and go, it looks like that's been fixed.
Medi-Cal.
And then the only other one is the one that's near Medicap, and I don't know if it's Medicap's responsibility for that or somebody else's, but I think that's a little bit different than like a private road within a development, because that is actually a road, even though it's a private road, it's made for public use. And, the public is using it as a thoroughfare to access a number of businesses. So I do think it's a little bit different than private homes, but, ultimately, I think it's whether the council wants to worry about it or not. I mean, you still could go along with the thoughts that, if the private business owners want to attract customers, that, maybe they'll learn eventually they're gonna have to fix their entrance.
I'm not in favor of the city doing anything other than giving a nuisance and telling the private owners to fix it, just because we are gonna get into this gray
Yes,
area.
that's what I was
And,
worried about.
Yeah.
Public Works is gonna end up having to deal with a lot of things that really they don't need to be dealing with. My opinion.
But so we can say, okay, we can cite them for a nuisance. That doesn't mean they're gonna fix it.
What is there, so after 30 days, Tony,
Yeah.
we have the ability to go.
Well, we could, I think the way that you'd see it on that would probably be a cite them for a nuisance and actually maybe yank them into court and get the court to order them to fix their nuisance within a certain amount of time. Then if they don't, they're in contempt of court. And it kind of takes the,
That's a lot of, that's an issue.
it's,
To me, it's cheaper to let Public Works bid it out and get it fixed and then assess the owner.
True, I'm with, if they can't fix their street, it's not, sorry. It's my mother. If the city doesn't, if the private property owners don't want to fix their potholes and people stop going to the business because of it, there's their payback. I mean, there's their incentive to fix it.
What do you think?
It's a no-win situation in my mind. I think
Yeah.
if you can get the private property owners to fix it somehow, that's the best way to get it done. I think the right-of-way piece of it's a little different because I think that we need to be protecting our right-of-way. It'd be no different than somebody's driveway, and their right-of-way is still something that we as a city, because if you let the piece of your driveway that goes into the right-of-way fall apart, then water seeps down, gets under our road and destroys our road. I mean, to me, it's no different than, we're protecting our road asset, that right-of-way area, so.
Mhm.
So I would tell you, I agree on the right-of-way side. The rest of it, I don't know.
One point that we noticed, and Shelby brought this up, taking care of our public relations, is there are a fair number of people that even though it is a private drive, there's a perception that it's public. That doesn't change the letter of the law, but that might be the only other factor of us taking more proactive, as if it's perceived as a public road.
And that's what I think is a slippery slope, because once you start fixing potholes, and what about these complaints about people who are driving through our private street and we have to pay for the snow plowing in our private street, and, we want you to do all these things. It just, to me, you just open up the door for the city taking care of private streets, which is not where I want to go.
I think we need to take care of the right of way, the approach, if there's something wrong with the approach. But past that, I don't
It's private grant.
But the current situation, which I know just got fixed at McDonald's, is that any part of the right of way?
That one
wouldn't be,
would not
right?
have been,
They're
but
just a
part
street.
of the Medicap one is in the right of way.
The Medicap one is.
Not all of it, but part of it is in the right of way there.
Okay.
And in theory, the water and everything, if we got rain, would get down in there and could go down and destroy our public road that's just a little few feet away from that.
Tony, do you know if the Medicap situation, have any of the adjacent property owners been made aware that they have an issue there?
Yes, I reached out and visited all the businesses in question on both locations. I did talk with True Bank. I spoke with Medicap, touched base with the two entities of Hubble Properties. So those four players right there own that private drive. And how that's split up, I don't know. According to our language, it's led me to believe that all four of you own that. It doesn't stop here, start there for you. There is the easement goes to the middle of the private drive on both locations. So you could split it up east and west on both of those. But as far as the rest of that, I take it as you all own it, you all figure it out. So
Did they give any indications on a plan to repair that portion at near Medicap?
the only person that reached back to me at the time, Come and Go, was in the process of fixing that. Come and Go had taken on that whole project themselves. They had no idea that they had other partners that could be responsible for it. They just decided to do it. I think one of the biggest things is the misinformation. They don't even understand if they own or don't own, that sort of thing. I spoke with the True Bank representative on site. He was very gracious and wanted the knowledge. I received a phone call from a True Bank representative who did not want to have any part of anything because if it's not in his parking lot, he's not going to have anything to do with it. And I think that's the biggest thing is the information that if we could put that information out, I think it would absolve the city the look of that's our stuff.
What do you guys want to do? No, I'm looking at you.
Oh, I keep trying to move back.
Can't move back enough.
Well, I'm making a point about the public street, but from a staff perspective, I don't want to put words in Wayne's mouth, but I think the idea that it is private and it be managed private, it is better than coming back to Public Works of having to deal with that issue. Other than a fine or a penalty on who's responsible, but I realize maybe that's difficult as well if there's not a formalized homeowners association.
Right.
Just soon it be left up to the private responsibility to do the repair.
So, okay, so let's.
Except for the right of way, I think that, yeah, the
that's-
right of way, I think you're spot on that that one makes sense.
So we need to do something with right away, right? You think?
I can live with it.
There's a public reason for the right of way.
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, the rest of it isn't, but the public has there's a reason that right of way is there and it's public, so.
That makes sense.
And I think letting the property owners or owners take care of it or give them an opportunity to take care of it first would be good, but I think they need to do it pretty doggone fast. Once we see a problem, because it's like what you said, David, we can't let it go on, otherwise it can compromise our own streets.
Sometimes it takes a while to get contractors to actually show up and.
Yep.
But
least they can
if
show
they've
they're
got somebody
making-
under contract and they've got that showing, that's showing they're doing the work, which
Yeah.
isn't gonna, we're not gonna step in and
Yeah.
take it from them. We're gonna let them work through that process. I mean, there's a difference between that and sticking your head in the sand and not doing anything, and then 29 days later going, well, I suppose I should call somebody. Oh, they can't come out for 5 weeks now. Well, if they called earlier, then 5 weeks would have been 1 week, and I think that's the,
And I agree with you. If they can provide documentation on, okay, I got this contractor, I got this contract going. But I think, there should be a reasonable amount of time. I got the contract going, it's got to be done. So.
yeah, it's gotta be read. I mean, if they have the contract signed, they're not gonna fix till next year.
Yeah,
And
that's unreasonable.
That's unreasonable, but I mean, that gets back to the enforcement side of it, that you're gonna say no. You guys need to find somebody different that will do it sooner, or
Or we'll do it. Or we'll find somebody to do it.
we'll find somebody to take care of the right of way piece and move
Or
on.
else we decide it's not a safe access to on and off our public street, it gets shut down.
Well, yeah, we could do that as well.
That would get attention.
That's
Hadn't thought
nice.
about that.
I like that.
That would.
I like that.
Attention in a hurry.
That wouldn't be so bad.
That's a great option too.
And we could, so are you looking to write an ordinance on this or?
I think we've
Or
already
just
got the
policy,
tool,
or-
I think we got tools in place
Okay,
to handle it without any changes at all. I guess we just wanted council update, and I was hoping that by being on the agenda, knowing that it's under council focus, that maybe some of the owners would take the initiative to get it fixed, which maybe has occurred. I don't know if Come and Go had it in line before we ever started talking about the council level, but one of them was fixed. One of the main
Right.
focuses was fixed. Now the other one's not yet, but
Yeah.
I think the main thing is if council and mayor's okay with
I would
city
take that over
progressing
what's
with
there
enforcing.
today.
yeah, what's there today is much worse than that.
Yeah, this doesn't reflect what.
You know, I'm glad Come and Go and Come and Go Hy-Vee or whoever did it use local resources as well. So,
But I think perhaps that road also, from what I've seen on covenants, is really the Hubble associations. There's an association set up for all those commercial things, and part of that, the road part was supposedly to be maintained by them. That's to all the owners.
By the association.
Yeah.
okay.
But I've
So the
got,
association would need to, they've either dissolved the association and that's now no longer valid, or they need to probably activate the association.
no, the association's really, the association has some pretty decent assessments against all those commercial properties on that private road right now. Nobody's quite sure where the money goes, but
That's not our issue.
that's
That's not our
issue.
issue. So, okay, so do you feel like you've gotten adequate direction on where we're going?
So what I gather is if it's in the right of way, if it's the approach, that's when we're going to be a little bit more aggressive. As far as it may end up being us doing the work and assessing.
They get 30 days to fix, and if they don't, then the city can't come in.
Beyond the right of way, that's gonna be more like inform them, maybe potentially push to some fines or penalties, but not to the extent that we actually go out there and do the repairs.
Safety issues. That'll get there.
Well, if we fix the approach, if the problem's in the approach and we fix the approach, then it becomes their problem. We can't barricade it, can we?
Well,
Oh, we'll have to look into that and see.
Okay.
Be barricaded until it gets fixed too.
if we start fixing it all, it's all gonna come to the city's responsibility, exactly what Stephanie said.
Which is where, so what I'm taking is because of that and those statements, that maybe we pursue that more as a fine or a penalty, that we believe there's a nuisance here. But beyond that, we don't get involved in actually performing work.
Unless it's in the right of way and affecting our public infrastructure.
So under the nuisance ordinance, if it's handled like a regular nuisance, can we charge fines or penalties
We
if they don't do it?
we don't have that. I would love to be able to have that, but we do not have that. Typically, what happens if it pushes far enough and give them a deadline of 30 days, you must get a hold of me, give me your plan, those types of things. If that does not happen, then I call Mr. Doherty and say, here's what we've got going. And
So can we charge a
Well-
fine if it's not?
Well,
in the ordinance?
technically, any violation of our code is a municipal infraction. As such, you can request the court. Usually we go to the court at that point in time and request them to levy a fine or levy direction on how to take care of it. So,
Okay.
you know, in court, it's a lot more abbreviated court. It's not like when we're suing somebody, we have a big civil litigation where there's gonna be huge attorney's fees and stuff like that. It's more like a speeding ticket.
So maybe we probably have a standard nuisance letter we send, maybe for nuisance letters we send in this case, you put in that not fixing within 30 days, we will pursue court, whatever.
Yeah,
Just
It
kind of
could result in.
could.
Yeah.
Yep.
So it's just a little bit different wording for
yeah, that's
street.
right.
problems.
Yeah, but it's not a huge, like I say, it's not huge expenses litigation. It's a write a ticket and they have a court date and you show up. And it's like a small claims type thing.
I think court date would wake them up.
So, and let me go back just a little bit to clarify. We are only talking about commercial
Yes.
property, not private streets like that are around.
Good. Good.
I like that.
Well, I would think though, if it was a private street entering onto public and it was still in the right of
It'd be
way.
the Same.
Well, if it's in the right of way, we could.
And
do
if it's
that.
affecting our infrastructure, I don't think we have any choice but to go after that. I think Dave's
Yeah.
made a very good point on that stuff.
It gets down to if it's in the right of way and affecting our public infrastructure, we've got it. But if it's 10 feet farther, it's not gonna be an issue to me, you know, that's the homeowner's driveway at that point.
Yeah. And then one of the reasons why I said, let's go to a private contractor is it insulates Public Works from estimating a cost of what it was. You got an actual cost of what it came in to, you know. Is that a good thing, Wayne, or would you rather do it yourself?
That's how we, we handle curb stop boxes and water service repairs, same manner, we contract that out.
Okay. Good. All right. Anything else from this?
Good.
You good?
I think we have good direction.
Awesome. Good deal. All right, item 8, council inquiries and staff updates. Wayne, summary of winter operations costs.
Thank you, Mayor. Just tabulated last winter's operations cost, and we do this every year, put it in there pretty similar. Last 2 seasons, we've had similar number of events and similar cost. I think Mr. Nelson wants us next year to start tracking towed vehicles or vehicles on the road, kind of quantify some of those impacts we might have. So we'll see that next year, but nothing too alarming here.
Cool. And then how, we get 42 from the state?
Yep, I think that's going up. It was on the agenda tonight. It went up this year. This past season, it was in there.
Okay.
40,000, 42.
Okay, and that offsets some of our costs.
We do track the highway separately, and that adequately covers our costs.
Great. All right. Anything else on that one?
No, Your Honor.
How about 2021 cleanup day summary?
Same thing. We just track our labor and costs for that event. It's a great event. We receive a lot of positive feedback on it.
Yeah.
I just thought we'd put it together so council knows the cost of doing something like that. Consequently, that's probably about a day's worth of work for guys. If we have a storm damage cleanup event, it's probably every day, you're probably looking around that same number.
Mhm.
So
I meant to look this up and I forgot. I know you budget for this, or is that within budget or?
I don't know for sure. Assume it is. Shelley goes through that. Shelley actually she did a good job tabulating that. She hasn't raised any concerns to me about it.
I'm trying to remember.
You know.
I want to say we put 10,000 in there each year
Okay.
for that.
So it's a little.
It's
over
been
that.
like 7,500 in the past, so
Right. And
it's a
some of this
little
cost
over,
is,
but we can handle it.
some of that cost is labor in there, so it's not a.
Which wouldn't be in that particular line item.
Oh, okay, yeah. So we're good.
So just an FYI.
Appreciate that.
Thanks for the info.
Anything else, Wayne?
No, sir.
All right, Holly, you got a sports campus facility update?
I do. Luke, I don't know if you just got that email I sent you a little bit ago.
I did, yes.
Okay, if you want to share that, it might give an idea of what we're looking at here. So I'll just go ahead and get started, but we wanted to make sure everybody is able to stay in the loop on all this progress and everything that we have kind of uncovered over the last several months working on this sports campus project within Norwalk Central. We've made a lot of headway, done a lot of work, our entire staff, the sports campus developers, everybody involved. So we're getting really close. And we do have some new, pretty good numbers to share with everybody. And we want some feedback and some direction from council tonight. We are not looking for decisions, obviously, but just some feedback and direction for really 3 items that will be pretty key factors into moving into actual approval items or decisions, hopefully at the next council meeting or the next few council meetings. So the new information that we have, we are just finishing up with the agreement draft with De Novo. As you remember, the last council meeting, we talked about using a construction management services company. Especially if we go forward with any type of ownership piece in this sports campus project, everybody felt pretty comfortable using them if we decide to go down that road. So we've been working with them on an agreement. We received that draft. We sent back a bunch of comments and questions, and they responded back with an updated draft. So we have that in our hands. We just want Jim to kind of make one last review of that, and then we can bring it forward to council so we can move forward with that company, especially if we go forward with any type of ownership piece. And then we did receive an updated facility concept from De Novo, which again, they're just kind of doing these things pro bono at this point. But this is option number 4, which Luke is showing here. And so this gave us all this space that we've been asking for, but it lowered the cost because we really wanted them to kind of shave off about $1 million to get us back into a comfort zone for cost, especially if we have any ownership piece. So the courts and commons area portion of this overall facility, which would be the public and city use space, would be a total of about 42,300 square feet. It would contain 4 multi-purpose basketball courts, a perimeter walking track, storage, parks and rec offices, meeting space, concession area, and then the entry lobby space for the visitors. So this new concept dropped the construction cost estimate from 7.9 million to 6.9 million. And also dropped the cost for the private side of the facility. So in that concept right there, over on the left, where you see the basketball courts, and then that kind of L-shaped section just below it, that's the courts and commons building. So that would be ours. And then over on the right, the long strip. Oh, I guess is that the other one people are seeing? Okay. So then the long strip, that's the private building. So that's where tenants would lease space in there. It's really far away for David.
You're good.
And then the fields, the pods would be surrounding this to the west and the south. But that gives you an idea of kind of what that layout looks like. And it's a pretty cool concept too, because all of the bays have roll-up doors that would open out to the pods, the turf. They could use that. They'll have outdoor patios. The commons area where the concessions and the restrooms are, that also has outdoor patio area that would overlook the fields. Pretty cool layout. Parking would be to the north and then also off to the west. So just giving you an idea of where we're at on this number 4 concept. We'll continue to update that as we get deeper, but we just wanted you to know where we're at on the price of that, or what we're looking at for the estimate. So then where we're at now. So everybody is aware that the original $300,000 a year annual payment that we offered to the private sports developers for the city to be able to use a courts building, we've dug and dug, and the developers looked into it as hard as they could, and that's just not a realistic number, and we all are aware of that now, especially to get the amount of time and space that we as the city and the public really want to use. So with that, we do have an option to own the courts and commons building for less annually than renting from the private developer, because of course, any private development, they would need to factor in additional costs and pass some of those things through, taxes, staffing, profit margin, that sort of thing. So if we chose the ownership option for the courts chunk of the building, we would have the choice of traditional city loan mechanisms or a lease to purchase option through De Novo. So that's Jean's area, so I'm not going to get too deep into that, but just options that we have. For the city to own the courts and commons building, the current construction estimate, like I said, is about 6.92 million. Parking, land, and then the construction management fees would bring this number up to about 9 million total. And then the annual payment for a traditional municipal loan bond would be around between 562,000 to 591,000, based on 2 to 2.5% interest for 20 years. And that's Jean plugged that in for us. So then the annual payment, if we chose to do a lease to purchase option through De Novo, would be 620,000 for 20 years at 3%. So the only, I guess, difference there would just be it's a longer term, right? No, same term.
I did apples to apples.
Okay, apples to apples. So that we don't have to get too far into. They're just options that we have right now. If the city does not wish to pursue the ownership option for the public facility and you all prefer us to continue trying to go down a path of renting from the private developer, we can attempt that, but it would be significantly higher to get all of the time and space that we want. It would be between 820 and 970,000 per year. And then this is based on the amount of time and space we want. And so basically with Robin's estimates and working with a private developer, that's, Monday through Friday, all day, all evening, full use, do what we want to. And then the weekends would be available for rentals. So any type of private rentals. So with that being said, there's significant difference there. So we know what it would cost. It'll cost us less annually to do it ourselves. Of course, there's different things that we still have to factor in down the road as we get deeper into this in terms of staffing and, overhead operating costs, but we're working on that. We're getting some pretty good numbers put together for it. And then of course, new revenues, Parks and Rec, new line of revenue. And then the private developer will also help us fill in some gaps with the new rentals and programming as well. On the incentives side for the private portion of the sports facility, that'll be based on the overall size and value. So we're still honing in on that, exactly what that's going to look like. That exact number will really come once we decide if we want to own or at least our chunk of the building, because that will change value and all of that. But right now, just their portion of the building would be about 35,000 square feet, in addition to 9 to 10 acres or 400,000 square feet of the outdoor turf and fields pods. And then once they factor in land and parking costs, they'll be spending about 8 to 10 million on their portion of the private side of the project. So with that, like I said, we're still working on this specific budget for the income and expenses on the park side, what it would look like to operate that private building. We're getting really close. Jean's been squirreling away, and so is Luke on putting those numbers together with Robin. And then of course the new Parks and Rec additional programming opportunities and income generators, working on that. And again, the exact incentives package for the private side once we know what we're doing on the other part. So what we really need from you guys tonight are three things or three ideas for us in terms of the next council meeting. So what we're looking for in recommendation would be, how do you feel knowing this new information on the purchase versus continuing to try to rent from a private developer? If you're comfortable with this purchase option, would you like us to just start to go down that path and pursue that? If so, at the next council meeting, we could bring back any additional information that you need to feel comfortable making a decision on that, an actual decision on that. And then once we know for sure if we want to purchase versus trying to rent, then we'll also need to determine if we want to take this to a public vote right away, or if we just want to go down the reverse referendum option for the public. And so there are pros and cons to both of those, which it's up to council to decide. But those are two things we'll need to decide here in the next meeting or two. And then the third would be just signing that agreement with de novo, especially if we have an ownership piece in there. I think either way, we probably need to use de novo. But then we need to enter into that contract with them so they can get a little bit of payment and go into the next design phases.
Can I ask a clarifying question? So, let's see if I can point it. So when you're talking the private building for 9 million, it's from here over? And that is the private building, or is there more?
Private's over to the right.
Private over the right.
Yep,
So-
public is all of that.
Okay, and so then when you're talking about the cost of the developer for the private building and the pods and the fields?
Yep.
That is just those kind of spaces.
Yes.
So there is nothing else to this sports complex except for this?
The pods, this facility and the pods. And then he'll have potentially an additional facility that would be built to the northeast of that would be about the same size. So he's talking with some additional tenants right now if they want to build out right away or wait. And then that total strip of the 5 bays, I keep thinking of 6, but it's 5 bays, is about 35,000 square feet. So it's a pretty good size facility.
Okay, so way back like 4 years when you started this, the concept. I knew we had the courts idea, but I thought that there was also going to be a building that would have like fitness equipment in it and a community room. Is that gone? Now we just have, what kind of tenants are tenants?
So you might be thinking of the first developer that we worked with, right?
And it just, So from that point to this point, it sounds like that general fitness community center type of building is gone. And now we have courts, and then who's a tenant, like a
So,
retail tenant?
Yeah, on the private side, it would be recreation and fitness sports-based tenants. So they're talking to gymnastics companies and fitness centers. There could be a restaurant on the end as just one to kind of fit in with the rest, but the rest would be recreation and sports-based tenants. They've had indoor baseball, batting groups, soccer, they've had everything looking into these spaces. So it could be a variety of that, but fitting within the concept of recreation.
And then other than that concession area, though, there's no place for, say, okay, I'm thinking like of, what's that place called in West Des Moines with the,
Smash
Pickleball?
ball.
Yeah.
Smash park.
right,
Pickleball.
Smash Park, where
Mhm.
you have a central kind of social area,
Mhm.
but then you have pickleball courts and stuff to the side. This looks like if you have the batting cages or something, you go in and out of those tenants, but you never have a central place. Is
Oh,
that
sorry, I
right?
should have explained. So on the north empty piece of this, that's where parking, the kind of centralized parking will be. So people will enter into those double doors that's right in the center. And they can either take that would be a left, they're coming in that way, east, and they go down that corridor. So that's kind of a glassed in corridor. So they, have all weather coverage or whatever. So it doesn't feel like a normal retail center where your front doors, that's it, and you don't see anybody else. So they would all go through that hallway, but it also enters into that commons area. So all those tenants could use the commons area. So they could come to the concessions, they could go into the basketball courts if they're doing something in there. So it will be a pretty joint central area right in the center. And then Robin could probably speak more on all the things that they're working on. Those courts are all very multifunctional for pickleball and volleyball and 1,000 different things they're planning on in there. So
Okay, so just to clarify, so you'd have these private tenants on the L part, but then if the city were to own it, the city would be responsible for maintaining and paying for the common area? So that
Yes.
we're responsible for the restrooms, so the private tenants don't have to pay for the restrooms, concession, whatever, there's no common area
Concession.
maintenance charge?
Keep in mind the concessions is a key revenue generator. So there is an advantage to the city overall in that area of having the concessions, if the city has an ownership there.
we kind of asked to
Yes.
have that commons within our building. We kind of want to control of it. I know Robin's got some plans in there, Parks and Rec. The private tenants can use that area during the hours we would have it open. But they will build in, each one of those facilities most likely would build in their own restrooms because they're going to need them during their own hours. But then the restrooms and the commons, that will be used for obviously everything that happens in the courts building. And then if we have tournaments outside and the turf and all of that, her offices will be in there, little conference room. You can see that conference table. I think you were, Robin, talking about doing like your team programming out there and things like that. So we kind of want to control that. And then the concessions piece, as of right now, we're planning on the sports developers group to manage that because that's a lot of work. And then just we would figure out some sort of a fee, whether they rent the space from us or they give us a kickback or whatever, however we work that out. So
And then so when you're talking about own, and I know numbers, right? Books, annual payment, 620,000. But that was just for the physical structure. That did not include operating or replacing tables and chairs and stuff like that. So,
Yeah, that's strictly the construction annual cost.
okay, so then you look at rent of 820 to 970 a year. Once you add in those staffing costs and other operating costs and capital improvements, aren't you going to end up at about the same place?
We're gonna be pretty darn close. We're still working through some of the O&M costs. We've got to nail those down. We do believe the revenues could be used to offset those, and we're thinking that that's gonna be a pretty decent number, but that's just one of the things that we still need to nail down before the next meeting, so that you guys can make a better decision on whether to go with lease or ownership.
If the numbers work out to be about the same, I would strongly prefer that the city not own it, the city rent, because I don't want the city to end up owning a fitness facility, then that may go bad. I mean, I'm just thinking about Indianola and the Y and other areas. I would rather it be a private developer, private operator owning and operating it. And it just is gonna take a lot of staff time and energy, and you have to have special staff to do that.
So whether we lease or own, I still have staff, I have the same amount of staff time to run my programming in the facility. It would just be the management piece that would be additional. Because I would still run the same programs. I would operate the space Monday through Friday, all day, all night, whether I lease or own. Because I plan, even if we own it, my plan is to continue to keep weekends open to keep the revenue stream in, to host tournaments, or not to host them, but to rent it out so someone else can host them.
You wouldn't need, if the city owned it, you wouldn't need more staff than if you
If
had the
we
management
owned
company
it,
staff it, run it?
so if we owned it, we could hire the private company to be a management company, and then we would just have our programming fees. But if we, yeah.
Okay.
I think it'd be the difference
Am I
between,
making
between
it
hiring
consistent?
full-time staff with benefits versus not. When you
Yeah.
talk about programming, she's talking about just part-time people coming in and doing the programming, which we do now, probably be some additional cost to that. But there wouldn't be full-time staff,
Right.
but maybe a management fee.
Okay, but then you still have the operating cost in replacing basketball nets and
There would be probably some,
roof air conditioning, that kind of stuff.
for sure.
So once you put all that in, that's just, those are the numbers I'd be looking at.
Yep, and
Um,
those, we kind of talked about that earlier in the economic development meeting too, that those costs, if we rent, will still get passed down to us. You know, there's got to be a profit margin for them, so we're going to be paying property taxes pass through, and then they have a cap that they have to be able to cover for that profit difference and things like that. So we'll be passed down extra costs. So just looking at the hard costs, it's significantly less for us to own it versus renting it. And then yes, the difference on the overall operating costs would probably be similar by the time it's passed down.
Since I'm on a roll, I'll just finish. De novo, I wouldn't expect an answer today. The last time it makes sense if the city owned it to have de novo. I'm still a little confused about what role de novo would play if we were renting it. So that's just an answer I'd be looking for when we get down the road. And good to hear if the city's gonna own it, that you'd put it out for public vote. That was gonna be my request. I don't frankly understand what the difference is between a public vote or a reverse referendum, so.
Luke,
I
do
can
you
be
want to
educated
explain
on
that?
later.
Yeah, it's just that if you choose to go the route of a vote, it means that come November or during election time, we would put a question on the ballots that say, are you okay with funding a project like this? If a bulk of the, I think it's 61%, I don't know the exact numbers, we haven't done one of these in a long time, but if you hit that certain percent, then we're authorized to proceed. If you say, listen, this project is an economic development purpose, and because of that, we believe that the community wants to do this. So we're going to move forward with construction, going to do the bond issue, but it's subject to reverse referendum. So a certain amount of voters could come forward signing a petition and say, we want it to go to a vote. Those are the two options you could go down. One path, you take more of a leadership role. The other path, you're looking to the citizens to make that judgment call.
I would say if it's 9 million or possibly more, once the numbers are done, I would like the public to vote on it, because I think even though they might want it, a lot of people don't understand what that means to their tax bill. And just want to make sure for that much money, if it was a $1 million or $2 million, okay, but that's a lot of money.
And as of right now, we're not planning on doing this. We're not planning on raising taxes to do this as it sits. So if we did go to vote, it wouldn't be to raise their taxes. It would just be to get their vote, I guess, their feedback on it.
But wouldn't doing this, if the city owned it, I mean, don't you have to have tax money to cover the debt service payment and the,
We would use the funding mechanism would be to use tax increment finance. So I met with economic development. We met with them a couple weeks ago, and presented some numbers, met with you and Ed. And the goal of that was to show you the funding mechanism, which would be using existing TIF values and not raising the tax rate. Now, the only thing I can say is I want to nail down what the staffing costs would be. We really need to make sure, because if we don't plan on raising the debt service level, but it could potentially raise another level. So we need to really have that in place. But the goal was to show you that the TIP financing, and then understanding like what we were using for like assumptions, financing assumptions and growth. And we did keep the debt service level at the 325. So that is the goal, to not raise taxes.
right, but you can't lower taxes either. I mean, if you build it, I mean, you would have.
Or
to-
we're delaying projects.
Right.
Right, we're
And
doing-
yes.
We're doing
So-
something to not,
So
That
there-
was
there's a
definitely
cost
another,
to it.
thank you for bringing that up. That was another part of it, the understanding that we would delay some projects as well.
Right, and then, I mean, I just want to make sure the public understands that by the city owning it, it means we're taking a big chunk of commercial property and taking it off the commercial property tax rolls pretty much forever. So it's just, you have that lost income to me that just, I think it's a little bit hard to sell.
You also
Those
have
are
to,
just-
you also have to remember that if this does not happen, all that other commercial value is probably not going to happen either.
I understand.
So,
So we were just talking about,
yeah.
sorry, we were just
No.
talking about in ED that Indianola, I know the Y itself isn't probably the best thing to bring up, but outside the Y, that entire area, since we built the Y, they built the Y, they have $50 million in new growth. So it really has been a successful venture as far as the development area itself. And that's kind of what we're hoping this will do for us. And that's the goal.
I hope it will too. And I'm not against the project. I'm not trying to kill the project. I just want to look at and make sure I understand the
My office
numbers.
doesn't get to be in there.
I want this to happen. I just want to make sure that we do it
Yeah.
in the long-term financial benefit for the city. I mean, even beyond when this is paid off, what really makes more sense? Is it to own it or to lease it?
Now, Stephanie, originally, when I was thinking, okay, the lease and purchase and that, I had a different feel than you did where, okay, if they're equal, I would rather do the lease. I wanted to do it since this is a major anchor in a major center, that it's vital that we have as much control as possible. That is all the more reason I wanted to own it versus lease it. I want to be in control, be able to have input in it, because that whole Norwalk Central hinges on this.
And going back, two of our council goals, number one is a recreational center. And number two is we need to increase our commercial valuation to bring the percentage of residential property taxes down, increase commercial, right? I think this would be one way to fulfill two of those goals.
In your town center.
Yeah, the town center.
So three
Well,
of
there's
the-
three of them, yeah.
It's something that's come up numerous times that when it comes down to the vote or the reverse referendum, that really is it's purely a council decision. We can tell you things like the time frame when it would happen. If there's a small cost, I mean, really probably $4,000 or $5,000. It's virtually nothing to go through that vote issue. But it really comes down to the decision by the elected officials on what direction you go there.
I just didn't know what the difference was.
you do remember how well, when they were gonna build the gym, the school board tried explaining that their taxes won't go up. And you remember on social media how well that went over. Yeah, they're building a 30, well, whatever it is, 10 million, I don't even remember what, Jim. But yet our taxes aren't gonna go up, right? You know, that was just constantly bombarded. And you tried to explain it. And that's a tough, it's hard to control. what- what
You know,
we
the
explain.
versus, and the tough part of that, the contrary to that, if we were to go out and say, hey, we're not gonna try to fool anybody into thinking their taxes aren't gonna go up, and if we don't say anything,
Mhm.
you know, then it's, well, why don't you tell us what's gonna happen with the taxes? It's, sometimes I feel like social media is a tough one. I mean, whichever path we take, you're gonna get a fair number of folks that are just gonna take
Yeah, that's true.
the secondary.
I think one thing important to clarify is that whether we buy or whether we have the long-term lease, we still have that path of deciding how that's approved, because whether it's a lease or it's a purchase, you still have to go through the same process.
Yeah.
Because it's a long-term obligation to the city. So, I mean, the council's still gonna, even if it's a lease, gonna be faced with a decision of, do we do one that's subject to reverse referendum, or do we get a vote on it?
Right,
Yeah.
I wasn't intending to hash that out tonight. That was
Yeah,
one of the
no, I
questions
just,
that Holly
I just
asked.
wanted to make sure everybody knew that, because I don't think it had maybe been clear to everybody before.
And Jim brought up earlier that because there's going to be some questions on that, and I feel like between staff, we can kind of scratch the surface and we've got a general idea, but Jim talked about bringing in our bond counsel, John Danos, and where he can then field some questions and give you that higher level of confidence on what that path looks like. Stephanie, one additional thing that came up, there's been a little bit of concern in the past about obviously the concern or opinion of the park commission is a value. And there was a little bit of question about the concern of the park commission, whether they feel that this project is important enough to delay some of the other projects that the park commission's talked about. So when I talked to Robin today, I asked for a little bit of clarification. They reached out to some of their commission members. And Robin, do you want to talk about some of the feedback
Sure,
that you received?
sure. And I don't know if there's anybody online too, so when it's time, there may be people who want to say something, but, I will, do you want me to say names or just say one of our council?
I don't think you need to give names, just.
Okay.
general.
So it was unanimous that everybody on commission said that they would be in support of moving the courts building forward even if that meant delaying some of the other projects that have been approved. Let's see. One member said we drastically need a courts building before some of the other projects that were approved. Another member also said that he would be in support of a courts building and that we are probably 10 years behind where we should be with facilities that the city has to operate in. So, everyone else just kind of said, yes, they're in agreement to support moving forward with the courts building if they had to delay other projects.
All right. Anything else? Holly?
So we just need direction on when we come back in the next council meeting, we will be attempting to get a decision on actually owning versus attempting to go back down the rental path. So if there's anything else you need from us in terms of information, I know at the economic development meeting, David asked for some good things. We had a few other requests for more information by the time we get to that meeting. So we'll put that together, comparables, things like that, what it'll look like for economic impact around that area once that facility is put in. So we'll put that together, but if there's anything else you all would like to see in addition, so that you would feel comfortable moving forward with that ownership option, we just need to keep the the wheels in motion on this. I'm just afraid that the longer it gets delayed and we kind of waffle, the more chance we have of not having the project at all. But I'm not trying to rush anything. So we need that direction. And then we also need the direction probably at that next meeting, like Jim said, we'll try to get our bond counsel there, but direction on the vote versus reverse referendum
Are
option.
you needing a poll from us or something tonight or
I
what?
don't know what the technical, what am I asking for here?
I think just given your general thoughts would be helpful.
My general thought is, I would like to pursue this in a purchase opportunity. And I think the jury is still out on whether, what method of referendum or non-referendum vote. But I very much would like to hear from Danos. I think that's an excellent call because I'm just trying to figure out how all this fits with economic development.
I just want to see numbers. I'm a numbers person. So that I can just feel like I've made an educated decision on that purchase versus lease. And then, which I assume would come with the final, a rendering to show how this all fits in, because I know that the configuration has changed and how this fits in with the other buildings and the pods sitting there.
Yeah, I have that. I can send that to you. Yeah.
I've gone back and forth on this, but I would tell you to go down the ownership path at this point. For this piece, I think it's long-term better for us. So like I told you, if you could get any of those businesses that have said we will come or we will build, or we've got option on a property and we're ready to build, but we're waiting for something to come. I think if you get some of those on board, shows me it's economic development driven that we need to put this in. So I said, that's, I think that was where I'm at, is makes sense to pursue the ownership side of it, because the city's had town center ground before that we were supposed to put stuff on, and the city never did anything with it. And that was the big fight with, having to rezone all that stuff for Hubble recently, because there was nothing driving people there that would make that viable as a town center, as a commercial multi-use piece and some of that stuff. So that's, I think, if this is going to be the town center, if we're going to do a town center, we've got to get something there that's going to get people there. And if we don't have people there, might as well say screw the town center and let's move on. That's just my personal opinion. If we're not willing to do this, I think it's time to move on from the town center concept and not even talk about it for the next 50 years.
I agree.
Well said.
All right.
Okay, I think we've got enough direction. Good. Okay.
I've got notes of the questions. Just to be clear, what Brian asked for, he wanted to see more specific revenue estimates. The mayor wanted to see some estimates of revenue of what would be generated around that. Gene's already doing that research. He gave us some ideas from actually another community. There's a very similar setup to this, so we'll research that. And then we had a question about, David, I don't know if it was you that asked that one or not, about some of the indirect revenues. So of the people coming in for the tournaments, what kind of dollars would those generate? I shared with Holly, those tend to be more flowery, bubbly things that are not really a direct, they're kind of hard to pinpoint, but it's probably worth at least noting.
We have modeling software. The developers have some really good modeling software based on other projects that they can get pretty close on an economic impact from these types of projects.
And if we own it, then the weekend rentals or weekend use that's not running through us, if they're running a tournament and they need it, they're paying us for that use, versus if they own it, we're not getting anything out of it. So I think there's some more revenue there that isn't in the original numbers that you shared. I think
Right.
that, that could lower that number. That could make it so that it's more advantageous
And
to own
that's
it
the
too.
revenue.
So.
And that's, and
That's the revenue
those are the
piece that we
numbers I
don't
want
have.
to see.
Revenues and expenses,
And also
operating
a
costs.
concession. So
Concessions,
if
yeah.
we own it, we would get that concession revenue in addition to the weekend rentals.
And we hate to make it too confusing, but part of what Gene and I talked about it one day, and part of what I envisioned is more of like, it's kind of hard to predict some of those budgets. Especially the first year is going to be different than the second year. But we talked about maybe even doing a high-low. Hey, here's kind of a range of where we think it could go. Be a lot of numbers.
You don't have a crystal ball to tell me
I
exactly?
know, that's
No,
surprising. but-
Stephanie, oh my goodness, the numbers, yeah, we have pounded this horse to death. It's gonna change till it's up, but we'll do our best.
So, one other thing to think about, I just thought about this is for the on-street parking. Do we want to go down the road of parking meters? That would be a revenue generator.
No.
We want to do that.
Go down the road.
Yes, because
I
Chief
like-
Staples is
I
a
like
no.
that. Parking meters.
Let's go a little at a time.
I can
Let's
see
talk about
Greg
that
getting
later
a
down the
headache
road.
right now.
Okay, that's fine. I just
Don't
wanted to
include
throw-
that in your revenue generation. no.
I just wanted to throw it out there.
Well, what I will add in there that is a positive that I 100% believe will happen, the naming rights for all of these areas. And there are a couple of other bigger investors right now working with the sports developers that will be really a game changer for the whole thing. So I think that grants and the naming rights will bring us way back down from this. We're just doing the very worst case scenario of hard costs right now. So.
Okay. All right. Holly, what else do you have? Nothing tonight?
That's enough. That's just enough, right?
That's enough? Okay. Luke?
Yes, drought. Did you want me to mention from the phone call today?
Go ahead.
Des Moines Waterworks had a conference call today and give us an update about the drought conditions. They give an interesting number. Normally, total what they are producing is around 50 million gallons per day in flow rate, of which we're about 2 million gallons of that. And it is upwards of 85 million gallons per day now. And I'm going to skip through all the notes that I have, and I'm going to jump to what I have in large print. At the very end of it, Ted Corrigan said the key solution is irrigation management. Just because that 50 million gallons per day is what typically happens during the winter time, and we're at 85 million gallons today, and it is primarily because of irrigation. So they did have some positives that in the coming week, the forecast does look a little bit better, at least not the same amount of heat. So that's a positive, and hopefully it starts to have more of an impact on our citizens when we ask them to voluntarily start to kind of roll back on some of the irrigation they're doing. So that's good and bad news, but it sounds like they're not ready to move to phase 2 yet of their conservation plan, which we and the rest of the metro closely match. When Des Moines Waterworks pulls that trigger, we follow in line. Also want to let you know that Front Porch Norwalk, actually my family at our house, we hosted one on the 9th. And I wanted to thank the police officers, Chief, Mayor Phillips, and also this year, the firefighters decided that they were going to go out and
They
make some
did.
visits.
Yeah, they loved it.
And they actually prompted us to meet some new neighbors. They were out showing the kids the inside of the fire truck, blaring on the horn. So we had neighbors walking down the street saying, "What's going on down here?" So it was that was really neat. It was a good get together for us. We had quite a few neighbors that stopped by. Also, to let you know that I'm going to be out of town for about a week. We leave town on Saturday. I'll start the vacation actually tomorrow. I'm going to take my computer with me and my phone so I can maintain sanity when I get back. So if you need anything, let me know, but it might be a little delayed on the response. That's all I have.
All right. Thank you. Brian?
Nothing.
Stephanie?
Nothing.
Lindsay?
Nothing.
Robin?
Nothing.
Jean?
Just a quick update. We're still in the midst of summer reading. Very happy with our turnouts. Our door counts are going up. And as I mentioned last time, we still have our take-home programs, and we had budgeted and counted for about 300 each week for the kiddos, and we gave away 300 on Monday. So
Oh, wow.
they're coming in. It's great.
Good. Good. Sounds good.
That's it.
Thank you. Jean Kelly?
Just a quick TIF update. Generally, in the past, we've submitted a budget to the county of what we need for TIF, and it's been provided, and it's not, we haven't always requested every bit of dollars that are available. Well, because of this big project, this year we did. And when I got the numbers, I thought, well, some of those don't look right. So I've been working with them. Lindsay's been helping me. We went to the county today. I thought it was a really good meeting. They had some of our base values wrong, and they're willing to change those for us. And we haven't always given the best information either, so it's kind of a give and take. But they are going to, moving forward, correct those, and we're gonna come up with a much better process of getting our information to them, because that's, I mean, it's on us to make sure they know what we're doing. And so just working through that right now and hopefully get it all fixed. Oh, and then in addition, so last year was their first year they had any real debt. They've never had a debt service levy. Kind of crazy in the recent past anyway. And they forgot to withhold their debt levy money from us. So we owe them, but I wondered, I said, how in the heck did we get more than requested? So we do owe them $83,000 back. I told them it would have to come back after July 1 because we've already done our budget amendment. They understood that. And so we will be doing that next meeting.
And we're not the only.
No, it affected Indianola, Carlisle, and West Des Moines. Well, they just had Microsoft, but yeah, that was kind of a big chunk for them. So working through it. That's it.
Chief Staples.
We got our plans finalized for the reverse parade on July the 3rd. Shouldn't cause us any difficulty as far as blocking streets. The mayor might have to change his location with the parade going backwards.
Yes, I know.
It's not going backwards. That's the new direction that it's going to go.
Why is that?
Much
by the way?
better.
It's going the new direction so that the end of the parade goes by the park first, and people can then go to the park and experience the party in the park. The parade was going the old direction. The people at the beginning of the parade by the school would be walking through the parade to get to the park. And at the end of July, there will be another tryout for the suburban emergency response team. That's the tactical team with the western suburbs in Altoona and Johnston that we're part of. I'd like to have another member on it, so we'll take volunteers who are interested to try out. If they get up, they pass the test, then we'll pick somebody. Having 2 people on it balances out our schedule so that we can have 1 person on each squad. Excuse me, I'm done.
All right, Captain Porter.
First of all, I'd like to thank the council for the addition of those hours. We really do appreciate it. Luke, Jean, thank you for the help with that as well. I reported off in the staff report of our call volume, and we've seen a really pretty big jump in the past 2 weeks. I'm not sure why, but we've experienced an increase of like 78 calls in the past 17 days. And it's kind of all over the board. We had a really high day. On the 15th, we had 12 calls for service. So there's nothing trending, but we've just been really busy in the fire department. So again, we do appreciate those extra staff hours for us. With that, we are currently doing a part-time hiring. And what I want to say about that is that we haven't had to hire part-time staff for about almost 3 years. And that's really unheard of in fire departments in the metro area. Normally they do a hiring once a year. We haven't had to for about 3 years. So we're going to be bringing on a few more additional part-time staff with that. And the last thing is that the fire truck pull that was originally set for this month has been postponed. So if you were putting a team together, it's postponed for July instead. So that's all I have.
All right, thank you. Tony Bellizzi.
Thank you, Mayor. We got a lot of construction going on around town. Just wanted to give the council a brief update on the West North Avenue project. So briefly, the contractor has completed the concrete patching work on the north side, which would be the westbound lane of North Avenue. We still have some barricades up there. We're going to just just to give us the required cure time on those patches, we're going to get the whole street opened up in both directions here tomorrow, probably late tomorrow afternoon. And so everything will be open for the weekend, and the contractor is going to come back on Monday next week and work on the patching on the south side. We anticipate they'll be done with that next week. And then the contractor is going to move in on the week of the 28th to do the milling and paving operations. So if all goes well, based on the contractor schedule, they anticipate being done by Friday before the holiday weekend. Now, if there's some reason, weather delays or whatever, that we don't get completely done by then, we're going to make sure, we've asked the contractor to make sure, and we're going to make sure that all of North Avenue is opened up in both directions for the holiday weekend, especially for the 4th of July fireworks celebrations. So we're hopeful that the project, all the major work items will be completed by that Friday before the holiday weekend. We'll continue to provide updates on the city website. You just sent another update to the city to post on the website for next week. And we'll do that again each week to keep everybody updated. So we've had a few complaints. If anybody does get any complaints, please get those to Public Works or myself as quickly as possible, and we'll try to address them the best we can. This type of project, we're going to get some of those type of complaints, but we're certainly doing the best we can to keep access to everybody at all times during construction. That's all I've got.
All right, thank you. Tony Hess.
Oh, thank you for the opportunity. One of the things community development is looking at right now, touching off of Mr. Nelson's irrigation water stuff, we're looking at extending temporary CFOs for all new construction, so they don't have to put sod down and irrigate it through these hot months, through the drought season right now, and making that possible for construction to continue, still allow people in their house, not forcing them to water dried up sod. So
yeah, makes sense. Yeah, good idea. Right, thank you. David? Wayne already went.
Wayne already went. I was waiting for Wayne, sorry. So my first, I've got three things. One of them, I'll go the easy route. Food truck permits. I'm just curious, we started this, about a year ago now? I'm just curious what the numbers are on those, and I kind of want to know which food trucks have them personally, so that I'm just curious more than anything, because
We have one.
we have one. So that tells me that we have food trucks operating in Norwalk that are not registered. So I don't know where that enforcement needs to go, but but we need to probably make sure that that's getting handled, because there's several that post on social media about how they're coming to Norwalk, and they come to Norwalk and serve, and then they leave and they've never gotten a permit. And so
So
that's
you're
just my
saying
2
because
cents
we
on
only
that
have
point.
one registered, there's more than that around?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, no, there's several that have come to town, and the ice cream trucks are not, I'm not including those, but like the totally rolled ice cream, they're making their product in the truck. So to me, that's a
food truck.
Food truck versus the guys that are selling the pre-wrapped ice cream. So that's just heads up that I was curious on that. So thank you. The second two are a little harder, and Robin, you may want to listen to this one. I was at Mackinac, and I was really disappointed to see all of the trees down, because several of those trees were on park property, and the developer just took the fence out and then went and took took every tree from Wright Road all the way south to the edge of the park. I know this is me saying that fence has been up for more than 10 years, and I know several of those trees were on our property, and they took every tree down. That's step one of this, is just me saying that developer is going to have to fix that somehow. They're going to have to be getting us some money for trees. I don't know how we figure that out, but just between you two, I'm extremely disappointed in that. The second part is I know that developer doesn't have a parkland agreement yet. It just got a lot tougher for him to get a parkland agreement with me. So just a heads up for him, whoever needs to tell him that, but or her or whatever, that tree removal process really set me off. When there's no shade down there, and there was some great shade coming off of a lot of those trees, and like I said, that fence was there a long time, and so the trees on this side on our side of the fence should have been our trees, and they took every tree and every piece of fence out. So
I'll bring up a map and show you.
It's bad. It's, so for me, and shade is the issue. So this was me, I think it was the first full weekend of June, I was down there repping a soccer game and I was walking down and I about lost it because I was like, so, sorry.
This is on the west line.
The west line, yeah. And I don't know grading permit wise or whatever they had for all that, but
right.
This kind of rolls into some of that in my mind that they've overstepped their bounds and went onto city property.
Yeah.
So just a heads up. I hadn't told you about that one. I'm sorry, but
I knew the trees were gone. It makes me sad when any trees leave. It just kind of deflates you, but I did not realize that.
they were our
that
trees.
was
Or
our-
I would say a third of them were our trees. I would say more were on their side, but a third of them were ours.
Okay.
And some of the nicer ones were on our side of the tree, of the fence, so.
This right here. That right here.
Up by where you put off fireworks.
Yes.
Yeah.
And where I, yeah. I don't have any shade for that now, so I'm gonna be setting up in the full sun. It's gonna be great.
Awesome. What's the blue line versus the black line?
It's just the assessor's line that's off on their maps. It's not perfect. There wasn't very much up there, but it starts about right there.
So the fence was
Oh, there's
basically
a
ours
lot
as
of
well?
Uh-huh.
All of those trees.
All of those
And
trees
they
are
were
gone?
on, there's a
Well,
fence
keep in
line in
mind that-
there. The blue line isn't perfect, just,
Right.
but there's a fence line in there. And they just came in and took the fence out and then they took all the trees out. So, but I would tell you down in that bottom corner, more of them were on our side than theirs. And there were some elms up in there and some oaks. It wasn't just scrub trees. It was some decent trees in there as well, so.
Interesting. I would guess probably, because I've seen this on some other developments around the area, that, when you transition from where the old farm lines are to where the mechanically measured, electronically measured quarter lines are, sometimes they don't agree with the fences. And a lot of the developers enjoy getting in there really quick after their electronic measurements say, oh, no, it's 10 feet this way. They want to get in there really quick and try to wipe it out because the fence is where the property line is. And it's been there for a long
Iowa
time.
has a weird fence law
Yeah, there's
that if a fence is there for 10 years, that's the new property line. Even if it doesn't get recorded. So it's kind of a screwy thing, but.
So yeah, I think somebody needs to probably ferret out why they thought they had the rights to do that and where they might just be as simple as going down and looking where they have pins sunk right now. As I would guess that what you're going to find is that they've sunk them 5 feet this direction and they probably didn't have the right to do that.
Right. Okay, thank you. That's bad news.
Like I said, it's fixable. I think it's not going to be fixable not going to be the same for 50 years, but I think that they're going to be owing us some trees and some.
Absolutely.
Something. So.
Something. Thanks. Jim?
Nope.
All right. Couple things. Holly, when is the Kosovo trip?
September 26th through October 1st. I want to say it's the last week of September that
Okay.
rolls into October.
I get you. Okay, so
I didn't write that one down.
you got my message as I'm going?
I did.
Okay. Anybody else who wants to go, let Holly know. Okay. The Greater Des Moines Partnership DC trip is September 22nd to September 24th. Would anybody like to go?
I think we should have, I would, they're doing it again in May. So just remember they're doing it in September. This is the
September,
one that would have been May's, but they moved it to September. And then they're doing it again in May of 22.
I'm just hearing about these dates. I like to check.
Okay.
So
So
DC was when?
DC was September 22nd to September 24th.
And May 9th through the 11th is the second piece.
Okay, I did not know that one. Thank you. Other one that,
And what was Kosovo?
September 26th to October 1st. Does anyone know when the Iowa League of Cities conference is?
I think it's September 16th.
15th through the 17th.
Okay.
Oh, look at that. 9:15 through 9:17. So take a look if you want to go to those. I think I'll bring it up again at our next meeting to see who wants to go. Okay. Chamber Golf Tournament was today. It was a lot of fun with my new team. I will say Sergeant Martin on the hole that where you're going to win a truck if you get a hole in one. That close off of his
Oh
drive.
my God.
It was it was just going, and I'm thinking, oh, that's gonna go, and then it stopped short, but it was pretty exciting. It was a good time. What did you guys shoot?
Did he make
He
the
didn't
cut?
want to win that truck anyways, because on the other side of the pond is a par 3 coming the other way. I hit the truck from the tee.
You hit the truck?
Yeah, from.
I missed it by about
the
4
other
feet. I missed a same shot. I missed it by about 4 feet. So I yelled 4, and the ball landed right next to that gal that was sitting there. So
I'm golfing with Greg next year. He'll make me feel better about my game.
I hit the back wheel.
hit the back wheel. Okay.
I still think.
So yeah, that was. What'd you guys shoot?
Minus 16.
Say again?
Minus 16.
Did you play all 8?
Wow. Yeah.
Well, so
How much did you cheat?
we didn't cheat at all. We had enough mulligans.
Okay. You bought a lot of mulligans.
45 mulligans later.
It's only 10.
Victory. Nothing wrong with that.
We were +5, so, but we had fun. Tuesday night was a Board of Supervisors meeting, and the idea of a 5-person board was on the agenda again. They are, yes, they're a little schizophrenic and going back and forth, but they went ahead and said, yes, they are going to bring the actual ballot language back on July the 20th and approve that to put it on the ballot.
Congratulations.
So that will be good. And then we'll have to start the campaign to actually tell people why it's a good idea. And so that was good news.
You know, I think my first week here, you were talking about that when I
Really?
first started.
Yeah, it's been a
It's been
while.
a long time.
And well, and it's not quite done yet. So just never know. That's all I had. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion.
Second.
All right, motion by Reva, second by Baker. All those in favor, aye?
Aye.
All those opposed, same. We are adjourned at 7, I gotta get my glasses on, 7:38 PM. Thank you. Thank you.